If everyone is in charge, no one is in charge.
If we know what the KRA, that means we understand what's our primary areas of responsibility.
The most important part of that job is what I would call your KRA, key results areas. Well, hello, dear listeners, and welcome to another episode of the Offsite Team podcast. Imagine this. You're embarking on a road trip. You have your destination in mind, but without a map or clear landmarks, you can easily veer off course. In the professional realm, these landmarks are what April and I call key results areas, or KRAs. They act as guiding stars, helping teams navigate the complex labyrinth of tasks and priorities to ensure they're moving in the right direction. Today, we are diving deep into the world of KRAs as they relate to your DME business, your respiratory business, your billing business, you name it. Whether you're a team leader, a newbie, or someone just curious about improving efficiency and clarity at work, this episode is your compass. I'm joined by April, the president and leader of our Offsite team. So strap in and let's kind of chart the course to success. How are you today, April?
Good afternoon. I've been busy, so it's Vermont. I've been fixing all my Christmas ornaments at home.
That's right. So you guys start putting out Christmas stuff in September of all places. Oh my, that's awesome though.
So lots of Filipinos usually start the Christmas season at the first or the beginning of September. So that's how we do it in our our culture.
That's great. Well, tell me, hey April, have you ever been lost before? And just kind of tell me what happened when you were lost.
Yeah, so the thing is, whenever you go to some place, like we are on vacation, we wanted to go to this one tourist spot. It's a destination where we can take pictures. It's a good stairs. It's a recent trip in Singapore. So we were wanting to look for that place, but we were just kind of lost. And it's bad because we couldn't ask anyone. Like when you ask someone, most of the time they don't know how to speak in English. So they could not understand.
So you were lost and you're speaking a different language.
Yes.
They don't speak English, don't speak Tagalog. So what do you do?
What we usually do is we turn on the Google Maps, but we still got kind of lost with the direction because it's the first time that we went there. So, it's really hard if there's no direction, if you don't know where you're going.
And, it's the exact same thing at business. We're in the DME business, the respiratory business, the rehab business, and to get where we're going, which is to take care of our customers and patients, but also to make good money while we do it, we have to know exactly where we're going and how to do it. I always remember the first time I got into the business, someone gave me a prescription for a reacher, and I thought, I'll just bill it to insurance and get it covered. Well, most insurances do not cover reachers, as an example. But I didn't know this because I was brand new into it. I was like going into a foreign country.
Right.
So, an Offsite team member, you know what? We understand the challenges faced by DME companies, and what's hard is to find dependable and affordable team members and employees who know Brightree, and that's kind of what we've done, April. We've created this revolutionary workforce, and we're going to talk about how having wonderful KRAs are vital to teams really outperforming other companies. So what I like to tell people when we interview people, everyone always wants to know, okay, one, am I going to get the job? But two, how much money am I going to get paid? And that tends to be the big thing. And that is wrong. And I'll tell you why it's wrong. Because really, once you get a job, the most important part of that job is what I would call your KRA, your key results areas. Now, why is that the most important thing? Well, it's what we're doing every single day. So KRAs, think of it this way. It can really only be 3 to 5 things. So what are you doing? So for our CSRs, these are taking care of our customers. For our rehab technicians, they're fitting wheelchairs. For our billers, this is confirming orders. For our fax wranglers, this is being able to bring in the fax, get them into Brightree, making sure that gets turned around, verification of insurance as fast as possible. So KRAs is literally what you're doing all day long. This is the big bullseye that you want to hit on a big target. So give me an example of a couple KRAs that you might see on one of the Offsite team members.
For medical documents, so medical documentation is one of the KRAs of our Offsite team members. So they need to obtain and review chart notes to make sure that they meet the LCD standards, which is the insurance criteria that we have to follow. We have to make sure that we do follow up with the provider providers regarding missing clinical documentation. So it's one of the KRAs involved. There's also this communications wherein they need to update the customers. So with the status of the order, we have to call the patients and let them know what's going on, if it's missing documentation, or if we need to have them call the doctor's office. That way it would be easier for us to obtain what we need. Sometimes it's the key that we need.
So if you're walking around, let's say you're listening to us today, and you want to know how clear is your company's KRAs, it's really simple. Walk around and just pick on any team member in your company and just ask them, what are the big 3 things that you do every single day? This should correspond with their KRAs. So if you are, and what I like to tell everyone, if you spend more than 10% of your day doing something, that needs to be one of your KRAs. So for example, calling doctors, verification, you name it. Now, one of the things that I have seen frequently where team members go off course is if their KRAs are not transparent. So KRAs, these are not meant to be hidden. They should know immediately what they need to do. So for example, when customers walk into our store, they have 7 seconds to greet a customer. It's that simple. I don't want to say, well, I'm going to make you figure it out. No, they have 7 seconds to greet the customer. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to Howard's. My name's Eric. How can I help you today? Or what brings you into the store? They know exactly where they're going into. Same with billing. Their goal is to confirm that order with the lowest error rate possible. Same as with the fax wranglers, you name it. And so what makes a great KRA is transparency. Now, why are they important, April? I mean, why do you think KRAs are important?
Well, for me, and I guess for the rest of the team, I'm speaking in behalf of them. If we know what the KRA, that means we understand what's our primary areas of responsibility, and it will also be help us in making accountable of what we need to attain at the end of the day during the work hour. So it's very important.
Exactly. So when you're in Singapore, your goal was, I assume, to go someplace because that's why you went to that company. In the world of business, so for example, we have a lot of rehab orders coming into our medical supply. Our goal is to turn those rehab referrals to us into paying wheelchairs. It's a very simple goal, because if all I say is, well, we got lots of referrals, but we didn't actually deliver or get paid in any of them, that's a failure. And so our KRAs for our rehab team know exactly what that is. Now, when I consult with other companies, and I'll go into stores and I'll just talk to team members, almost always the KRAs from the top down to the bottom are not congruent, I have found, where I will talk to the CEO or COO and they'll say, okay, this is what I want from my team. And then I'll actually go talk to the team and the team will give me a different answer. And I don't think they mean to make those mistakes or miscommunication, but it's not clear. So for example, when I'm driving a car and you come to a 4-way stop on the right side of the road in the United States, I think it's the same in the Philippines, there's a big red stop sign. Why is it big and red? Well, you don't want to miss it, because if you miss it, you can get in an accident. You guys have big red stop signs, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, same thing. You don't want to miss it. KRAs are that. So you want 3 to 5 for all your team members. I have found if you have more than 5, it's too much. It's too many things to work on. You can't have sub points. So I recommend no more than 5, no less than 3. We do have a few people who have like 2. They'd be our part-timers, like our respiratory therapist. He only has 2 KRAs. And so that's kind of, and when they're done right, it helps with goals. It saves money. It saves so much money because you have people going in the right direction. There were a number of years ago, I had a team member, and he was just not doing a good job. I should have never hired him, but he was on his final written warning because his error rate was way too high, and I'm just, I don't think he's going to make it. And I'm like, you really need to process these orders and get this done. Well, I walked out to the showroom floor and I went to go check on him. And do you think he was working on his orders? No, he wasn't. You know what he was doing? He was washing windows. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you washing windows? And he's like, I just didn't know what to do. So I just looked straight ahead and I started washing windows. And I just wanted to pull my hair out. And now he should have known he had been written up for exactly, not getting his orders done properly. But part of that also was on me. I was not clear enough as the CEO of the company saying, here's your KRA. There's nowhere on your KRA that says wash the windows. Now, he did look up and the windows were dirty. So that's awesome. But that wasn't the big goal. We can always distract ourselves doing with little little small things, but it's vitally important. So the KRA says, hey, April, you're going to do this. So for example, as the president of our offsite team, you are in charge of training and making sure our offsite team members are just rocking it. That's what you're doing. And so for example, one of your KRAs is, how's your team doing? So when we get into next week, your KPIs, we're going to talk all about KPIs next week. Your KPIs are actually their KPIs. So you're judged and graded on how the team's doing. But it works for having a very high performing team. So, when we come up with a new KRA, or let's say for those listening to, how do you come up with a good KRA?
Actually, well, at first we have to identify what's the task for the team member. Because if you know what their task is, whether we're going to put them in communications or documentations or billers, we want to make sure that we know them when we hire them. And then when we create the KRA, it has to be something that has to be there in charge. That way we know what would be the expectation for them as our new team members and how they will need to do their tasks. So it's very important that we know those things.
Yeah, and I found out frequently, if everyone is in charge, no one is in charge. So you were spot on. Everyone knew what they have to do. Let's say someone's not meeting their expectations. You have the KRAs, we've hired someone to do this. We have a number of different offsite team members, or let's say we have a company call us and they have a general idea. How do we make sure they have the right KRAs?
First, we would need to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, the tasks. Are they trained on doing the tasks? Because it's very important, because how can someone do the things when they don't know how to do it or they're not trained to do it? And doing trainings, so refresher trainings if we have to, coaching them, doing one-on-one things to make sure that we are discussing what's the issue and how can we help them? How can we help them in how they can do their tasks better?
And we'll get into this next week when we're doing KPIs. We have to measure it. And the reason why you have to measure it is sometimes some team member, we might hire them to do one task and they might do it perfectly, but it's not bringing results to the business. And this is where, we have a gigantic KPI spreadsheet and we know exactly how it worked within the entire company from top to bottom and the results that we need to get out of it. And if we end up doing it and not getting the results, well, even though the team member is doing a great job getting their KRAs done, if it doesn't help the business, we need to change those KRAs. And so we really need to make sure that they translate to the KPIs, key performance indicators, where it's very, very profitable for the business. Now, with KRAs, everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing. A lot of people get nervous. So if you have a company and you've never done this before, they get nervous. What happens if someone doesn't do their KRAs? And let's say we just cover it up, because we wouldn't want so-and-so to feel bad about it. What's the problem if we don't talk to people who are low-performing team members that can't do their KRAs?
Well, we're going to fail as a business.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's exactly what it was. We were talking last week, difference between thoroughbreds and donkeys. And if you have a bunch of donkeys in your business, really, and you allow them to stay in your business, it's really sanctioned incompetence. And the problem is, it makes, one, people just really don't like it, but two, it brings the entire team down. And there's nothing wrong with failing. Every time I fail, I always call, okay, there's a little bit more continuing education that I'm getting. I learned what not to do. But if we just sanction incompetence, it just goes on and on and on. So everyone needs to have their KRAs. He or she needs to know exactly what victory looks like. In the U.S. sport of football, you got to get over the goal line to get your touchdown. I don't care how great your team is. If you're not scoring touchdowns, you're not winning. So this is, so in summary, communication as we have KRAs is vitally important. Even when conflict's involved, there will be conflict. Because even if your team's on the same page, what do you do when that customer calls in and complains? And, some of the ways I do this is I manage by walking around here in the store in, Yakima, Washington. I walk around and that's what we do. Now tell me, how do you, even though I say I manage by walking around, how do you manage by walking around because everyone is remote? How do you do that?
Yes, actually, it's a good question. So usually what I do is I look into the KPI tracker. And then when I see that there's this something red, I also check the notes. Is this person on vacation, which is why they're not hitting the numbers? Or there can be another explanation. But then again, if I could not find the answer, I'll go ahead and check on the Insightful. So we have a lot of things that we can check. We have screen trackers on everyone, so I can see were they on Facebook or were they doing something. So we literally sees everything on their computer. And that's not usually the case. It's usually they're going somewhere where they're not supposed to. They're just kind of wasting their time. But the efficiencies are really
really there once we have really clear KRAs. I will say one thing I've learned, and I used to think this was okay when I was younger. Now as I've been here going on year 19, communication with others, we should never publicly humiliate anyone. It's just never helpful. So if there is going to be something, I mean, occasionally we can laugh if someone does something thoroughly silly. But if there's ever something where, hey, I need to talk to so-and-so, I should not call you out in the middle of a team meeting and say, April, you did horrible on that. I mean, even if you did, it's not going to help you. And then everyone else is going to be scared because even if I'm saying that to you, they're wondering, well, who is Eric going to call out next? So if I do have to bring something up with you, especially if it's sensitive, it should be one-on-one. Hey, April, can I talk to you about that? I happen to notice when you said to the customer, and I'll say something, it was a slight misspeak and the customer got really angry. I might recommend we pause after this word and correct that way. So it's always best to do any sort of confrontation one-on-one, preferably in person. It's one of those things. So with KRAs, as we wrap up our discussions on KRAs, we come to really realize just how invaluable having the right team members in place can be. So remember, the journey towards achieving your goals doesn't have to be taken alone. Whether it's charting your KRAs or navigating daily tasks, the significance of having reliable, dedicated team cannot be overstated. So the nice thing is the businesses that we're working with, it's hard enough to have team members, but we get to come alongside because we have our rehab numbers, they have their rehab numbers, and we can say, hey, this worked for us. So we are training the other offsite team members to really help the other companies out. So for example, if today's discussion resonated with you and you are looking to elevate your team dynamics with offsite talent, don't hesitate. Give April or myself a call and we'd be more than happy to help your team thrive no matter where they are. So go ahead and reach out to us. And what we do is we've streamlined the recruiting process. We actually have, right now we have 3 people ready to be placed in other teams. We have a very extensive talent pool. We use personalized matchmaking, and also we are really, really affordable. Very, very affordable. So anyway, give us a call. Reach out to offsiteteammember.com. And next week, we are going to dive into KPIs. So KRAs are what they're doing. KPIs is the scorecard. So we have to have both in the process. So anything else to leave everyone? So what's your top KRA that you have ever seen someone just hit, April? You're like, their job was this and they hit it.
Actually, it's the documentation, like meeting the LCDs. And everyone in the offsite team is KPI driven. So they're able to perform what their KRA is, and at the same time, they're able to hit their weekly KPI, which is good.
And I love that because we get those audits that come back to us, and then we pass them, and we're like, hey, we have this. Bring the audits on. We have it all stored in Brightree. Okay, you want to see this? Here it is. We send it off. It gets paid. And then they go bother another DME company instead of us because it's not worth it. So, well, anyway, hey, thank you for your time today. Offsiteteammember.com. And next week, April and I, we're going to dive into KPIs. Thank you much.